Early on in Mirage, each one of the turtles were given microseries, isolated stories that were basically like one shots that were meant to be a character study of that particular turtle in a specific circumstance. And these are some of the best stories involving these individual characters still to this day. That's where we meet Casey Jones for the first time. Casey Jones first appears in Raph's one shot microseries. Raph is wandering the city alone after losing his temper during training. He encounters a masked vigilante wearing a hockey mask and carrying sports equipment as weapons. That vigilante is Casey Jones. Casey is chasing a purse snatcher, but the confrontation escalates beyond what Raph would expect. Casey does not believe in proportional response. He believes in punishment. And so Raph stops him from seriously injuring the thief. The two fight, and it's not a friendly exchange. It's two people that are angry colliding with each other. And by the end of the encounter, they part without resolution. That's Casey's introduction. Not yet friend and not yet ally. He is meant to be a parody of street level vigilantes taken too far. In early Mirage, Casey's motivation is not trauma driven in the way that other vigilantes often are. He's inspired by exaggerated TV and action heroes. He believes that crime requires decisive physical punishment. That is baseline for Mirage Casey. During the foot assault on April's antique shop during TMNT issues 10 and 11, Casey fights alongside the turtles. And it's interesting because for a street level vigilante, he fights alongside them in a serious conflict rather than a random street encounter. And after Leo is nearly killed by the foot, the group retreat to Casey's grandmother's farmhouse in Northampton, one of the most famous aspects of Casey's story that's been adapted in several different versions of the turtles. This is the first time that Casey becomes embedded in the family dynamic. In Northampton, he's not just a vigilante, he's the host. And he becomes part of the group's survival and recovery. While in Northampton, Casey is present through a lot of quieter issues. This is where his relationship with April begins. It's casual at first, right? They're both displaced. They're both untethered from normal life. Casey's still aggressive, but the farm slows him down. He hunts. He works outdoors. He interacts with April in ordinary domestic moments. Mirage does not romanticize this period. It's showing Casey as capable of normalcy, but not fully free from those basic impulses. One of the most defining moments for Mirage Casey happens during his encounter with a gang in Northampton. During the confrontation, Casey strikes a teen with his weapon, and the boy dies. And it's not framed as premeditated. It's always meant to be a consequence of escalation. And because of that, Casey is shook. This is the first time that Mirage forces him and, in some ways, the reader to confront the reality of violence beyond comic book exaggeration. He later encounters the vigilante known as Nobody, who investigates the situation. Nobody ultimately concludes that Casey acted in self-defense, but the legal clarity doesn't erase the psychological impact. And so Casey changes after this. Around this time, April decides to leave for the West Coast. Casey's relationship with her is unresolved when she leaves. Instead of staying in Northampton, Casey follows her. It's not meant to look heroic. It's presented as impulsive and emotional. On the road, Casey meets Gabrielle in Colorado. He's injured after being robbed, and Gabrielle helps him recover. They begin a relationship. Gabrielle reveals that she's pregnant with another man's child. Casey stays. They marry, and Gabby dies during childbirth. The baby survives. Her name is Shadow. Casey becomes a father. This is one of the most important turning points in his life. After this, Casey returns to New York with Shadow. He reconnects with April, and they resume their relationship. He attempts to stabilize his life, but the violent dreams begin. See, throughout later Mirage issues, Casey experiences recurring nightmares. In them, he confronts a darker version of himself. This version is far more brutal than he is, more decisive, and definitely less restrained. Those dreams suggest that Casey's family life has softened him. They imply that his domestic responsibilities have weakened the vigilante that he once was. And Mirage doesn't confirm whether these visions are psychological, supernatural, or symbolic, but they occur. Much later in Mirage continuity, Casey's origin is expanded through the introduction of Hun. Hun is revealed to have burned down Casey's father's auto shop. During the confrontation, Casey suffers a severe beating and head trauma. This injury explains some of the unstable behavior and his heavy reliance on TV influences during his adolescence. This retcon shifts Casey's origin from parody vigilante to trauma shaped vigilante. It adds depth but changes the original tone of his debut. Eventually, Casey proposes to April using his grandmother's ring, but nothing can ever be fully peaceful. The ring contains what the Foot believes is the Heartstone, a mystical object associated with immortality. They attack, but later realize that the ring is a counterfeit. And so they win out the day. Casey and April continue with their engagement just using a different ring. During the unfinished Gang Wars arc, Hun returns. Casey attempts to confront him, and Hun overpowers him. At one point, Hun invades Casey's home and holds April at gunpoint. Casey is beaten severely before the turtles intervene. This reinforces the power imbalance between Casey and larger criminal forces. He's not superhuman. He survives because of allies. By the time Mirage Volume 4 happens, Earth has become a hub for intergalactic trade. Aliens openly reside in cities. Casey's older, and Shadow's a teen. Casey's relationship with April deteriorates after April discovers that she is not entirely human and leaves on a personal journey. Casey returns to Night Patrol. He drinks more heavily. He encounters a new nobody, later revealed to be April in disguise. He experiences further tension between family responsibility and his violent instincts. In one Volume 4 storyline, an alien performer named Bleebaz accidentally transforms into a monstrous version resembling the darker entity from Casey's dreams. Casey confronts it physically. When he unmasks it, the creature reverts to Bleebaz. This confrontation gives Casey a moment of clarity. The darker version is not destiny. It's part of him, and he chooses to not let it dominate him. In Volume 4, Casey develops a complicated interaction with Karai. She shows interest in him. Whether that interest is strategic or personal is unclear. At one point, after a drunken incident, Casey wakes up in Karai's home. The series goes into hiatus before these consequences are fully explored. Across Mirage, Casey evolves through distinct phases. He starts off as a parody vigilante, moving into a violent extremist, an ally for the Turtles, an accidental killer, a lover, a widower, a father, traumatically reshaped man, and a haunted adult. Through the whole thing, he is a flawed but self-aware protector. He is not the perfect hero. He isn't a villain. He becomes a man struggling to balance violence and family. Mirage never cleans him up. It allows him to remain rough, inconsistent, and deeply human. That's the power of Mirage's Casey.